Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video, and today I am doing my October 2024 monthly musing, okay? I'm basically the same as I usually do with these. I'm going to start by talking about some life stuff, then I'm going to get into books I read this month, and then finally I will talk tarot, oracle, all that jazz. So, I don't know, without any further ado, let's kind of get into it. First off, October. Wow. This was a month that had a lot of ups and downs, but my card of the month was not actually, the Wheel of Fortune like the month previous. It was actually, if you can't tell by looking at all these, this was the month of the Empress. Interestingly, at first I was not sure how I felt about this, the idea of this, being an Empress month. I'm kind of like rearranging these, I don't know. They're all weird sizes. Anyways, at first I was not sure how I felt about this being an Empress month. I think that I eventually interpreted it as, okay, October, Empress month, this is probably a time to get back into nature, to get back into nurturing myself. I took it more in that direction because despite like these two cards here, I'm not 100% a fan of seeing the Empress as just being motherly. Was not usually a fan of that interpretation, so these two probably the least relevant in that, but I did take it as a sign to be more one with nature. And funny enough, I feel like in October I actually semi-accomplished this, and I'll kind of explain. So October overall, like I said, had a lot of ups and downs, but I did get to go into nature a little bit more. At the very beginning of the month, it actually started out strong, right? I went on a trip to Lake Tahoe with my husband, and it was beautiful there. If you've never been there, and you happen to go to California or live on the side of Nevada, I guess closer to the state line of I highly recommend going to Lake Tahoe at least once. I've heard it's like the 5th most clearest lake in the whole world, but I've been going there since I was a kid, and it was just beautiful. It was a perfect time of year to go. The weather was perfect. It was not too hot, not too cold. I could even get in the water. It was really, really nice. And we just did a lot. I don't know. It was a really good trip, but there was that. I also did day trips to like beachy areas like Carmel and Half Moon Bay. I even had a chance, to go, funny enough, to a pumpkin patch. I haven't done that since I was a literal child, but we got to go to a pumpkin patch here that is actually pretty big. It's beautiful. Had a lot of beautiful like marigolds and such. Again, if I remember, maybe I'll show some pics of some of the things that I did. But it was a very beautiful pumpkin patch called Spina Farms. It's, in my neck of the woods, kind of. But yeah, that was very, very beautiful. What are some other things I did in October? I watched the new Venom movie, and my thoughts, I think, are that I liked it. I don't remember liking it as much, though, as the first Venom movie that I've seen. But I thought it, like, ended okay, and I thought it was, like, fine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that I don't know what that rating would be. And another thing I did a lot in October was play Animal Crossing. I don't know what it was. I just wanted cozy vibes again. So I got back into it, got my Switch Lite out, started going through my stuff and all that, and did the thing. So yeah, that was October. But it was also not a fun month because I'm not going to get fully into it, but basically I was getting sick a lot. My work put a lot of us into a very unfortunate and kind of messed up situation that we barely resolved as of 2 days ago at the time of me filming this. No, 3 days ago at the time of me filming this. It was barely resolved, but it messed us all up for like weeks. And then there were just some unfortunate deaths. Yeah, actual deaths and things. But I'm not going to get fully into that. Basically to say, October was a lot of up and down. I also felt miserable and sick parts of the month. So I did what I did. I did a lot, but I was very tired and very defeated by the end of the month. So I don't know. This was a weird one for the Empress, isn't it? But anyways, Empress cards. That was things I did in the month. Let me get into books I read, which were 4. I read 4 books, and I think I'm gonna have some coffee. Oh, this place. If you guys live in Bay Area, they're good. Just saying. Anyways, books. What books did I read? I said I read 4, and it's true. I did. I started the month of October reading this one. This is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And as it says, there are other stories in this too by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is considered a classic by many. And I guess that's true. Yeah, it even says it right there. And as you can see, I did finish the actual Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story. It actually was not very long. So let me see if I can oh, here we go. The actual story of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was literally only about 76 pages of this book. Okay. The actual story of that. The rest of this is all short stories and things, also by him. And as you can see, I did not finish this because I did not care for most of the other short stories, but the actual book here, the actual Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I did enjoy that. Ultimately, though, I'd give it about maybe a 3 rating. I think it's because being only 76 pages, I found it was very short. I feel like there's just a lot more that could have been done, and it was not with this. And it just felt a little abrupt, but it was interesting. I just kind of wish it was, it was a longer story. I feel like this is a book that has really good opportunities to have really good retellings, though. If anybody knows of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde retelling that I should look into, please let me know, because I feel like that'd be a lot more interesting and give me more than what this gave. So that's that. I read a classic this month. But what else did I read? After reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I took an interesting pivot and read this book. This is Emily Henry's Funny Story, and it still has the stickers on because I'm debating if I'm going to take it back to this bookstore I go to. They have this cool thing where they give 50% buyback if you decide you want to return it. It just has to be in good condition, and it pretty much is, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that's not the point. Funny story. What did I think of this book? I did like it. This was interesting because this was the first Emily Henry book I've ever read. I thought it was funny as a story, as a romance or whatever. It definitely had enough tea in the beginning that it hooked me in. But how do I say this? Okay, I ultimately gave this book 4 stars, okay? And for those who don't know what this book is about, it's about this girl, or not girl, I guess, she's an adult. It's about this woman named Daphne who was engaged to this guy named Peter, and he moved her basically back to his hometown because they were going to be married. They were engaged, okay? Then at the last minute, Peter was like, lols, actually, I'm in love with my childhood best friend and I'm breaking up with you. So that's what happens, except his childhood best friend, the girl that he leaves her for, was this guy's actual like girlfriend. So basically they both broke up, got with each other, and then these two are left behind. This is Miles, and they become roommates essentially. That's what the story is about, and it takes place in like a made-up town in Michigan. Yeah. Anyways, funny story. Did I like this? I did. Like I said, I gave it a 4. I think, I mean, because it was really like a fast-paced, like easy read, and so I was entertained. But there were a couple things in this that kind of bothered me. One is that I feel like Miles's story here, like his backstory, like why he is who he is, it didn't make much sense to me. I was just like, I don't know, sir. This feels very flimsy of a life story. So for that, I didn't care for his backstory. I also did not, what was it? I also did not, oh, that was the other thing. So this story does have a couple of steamy scenes, like romance scenes. And let me tell you, those were not her, it was not her Emily Henry strong suit, okay? They were just written in a way that was really awkward. And I found myself going, oh God, no. Okay, this is so awkward. So you could tell, I heard though that this is the first book that she actually has steamy scenes in. So that's probably why too. It just showed she couldn't write them very well. And for that reason, I just gave it a 4. I don't know. And this is one I'm not sure if I will be keeping. I don't know. Very conflicted thoughts. Took a break to have a sip. But anyways, yeah, funny story. After a funny story, I did read this book though. And this is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is by Carissa Broadbent, as it says here. This is book 1 of the Nightborn duet. And what did I feel about this one? I gave this book, funny enough, you wouldn't think here, okay? Because this is a romantasy book. Again, I always love fantasy, but I don't always read romantasy, so I did not know what the hell I was getting into with this one. I actually liked it though. I gave this one, personally, I gave this one 4, I would say it sits in a 4.5 space for me, because I really liked this book, and it was fun, and it was addictive, and it was a really easy, fast-paced read for me, and for that reason, simply, I'm giving it a 4.5. It is not a 5, though, because I would not say it's utter perfection. There's a couple things in this that I felt it could have done a little bit better, like, namely, I thought it was just, so this book is adult, right? It's an adult romantasy, but the way that cursing was placed into this book was really awkward. I don't know what it was about it. It just didn't feel like it sat well with this book. Like, you know when you could tell, like, when someone doesn't curse very often and they curse, and then it just sounds weird? It was kind of like that in this book. Even though I love cursing in books, it just felt weird for this one. That was the reason why, main thing. But anyways, let me talk about what this book is actually about. This is a world in which humans, it's a fantasy world in which humans live amongst vampires, but vampires are actually the majority. Humans have almost died out at this point. It's a really, see, that's the other thing. It's like, you wouldn't think I would like this book because of that premise alone. I am not, what's the word? I'm not really a vampire person. I would never say I was really a vampire person. So I was surprised I actually liked this book. But I guess it's because, like, the action scenes and the fantasy involved in this was good enough for me that I liked it. I did not expect that. I will say, I'm going to actually flip to it. A couple of trigger warnings are in this book for people who might be curious about picking this one up. You do need to know about these trigger warnings and decide if they are fine for you. As it says here, It does have a lot of violence, torture off page. There's a flashback of the R word, consent was withdrawn, self-harm, emotional abuse, slavery, and references to sexual or SA. Yeah. That's in this. For me personally, this would normally, because those things are kind of triggery, especially the SA related things are normally triggery for me. I would have normally not picked up this book. But I think for me personally, the way in which it was written and stuff was fine for me, personally. But if you are triggered by those things, do not pick up this book. Just know that that's happening and that's what you might be getting into. It is very small of a thing, though, so that's good. I'm glad that it didn't really drag on very much, those references. So just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But yeah, I really like this one. The main character's name, I believe, is Araya. Yeah, Araya. And she meets this vampire. Now, I don't know how to say his name. For some reason, my brain looked at this right here and thought Rain. I don't think that's how you say his name. I have a feeling it's probably more like Ryan or Rayan. I don't know, but I kept calling him Rain. Orion Rain, they are a thing, kind of, but I do actually appreciate most of this book. They are kind of like, it's basically enemies to lovers in a way, because they are vampires that are competing in this. Well, Araya is a human. He's a vampire. And they're competing in a tournament to try to get a wish from the vampire goddess, basically. Like, she can grant any wish that they want at the end of the tournament. If they compete, they just have to beat all the other opponents. And they kind of form an alliance, but at the same time, they're enemies, but they eventually become a thing. I like this one. The ending, I was like a little bit surprised of. I kind of had a feeling something was going to happen, but I didn't expect it to turn out the way it exactly did. So I was pleasantly surprised in that way too. So yeah, I talked about this book for way too long, but yeah, 4.5 stars for me. I do already have the second one. I do plan to read that in November. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know, but for now I liked this one. And finally, the last book that I read in the month of October, so we can move on and get to tarot, was this book. This is In the Lives of Puppets, and this is by TJ Klune. Now, my husband got me this book for my birthday, not this year, but the year previous, I believe, like 2023. And since then, apparently, here's the other issue. I have 2 other books by this author currently on my physical TBR that I have gotten a few years ago now. Yeah, give or take, I got those books a few years ago now. But I heard recently there's some kind of controversy with him. I don't know what it is. I haven't researched any of it. Can't tell you what the tea is there. But I vaguely am aware that there is some controversy with this author. But anyways, In the Lives of Puppets. This is a book that's basically our world if robots took it over. This is basically, okay, the plot of this book is basically Pinocchio plus iRobot. That's basically it. I don't know how else to explain it. But there is this human in this world whose name, what is his name? Victor. Okay, Victor. Human named Victor. He's living with an android who's like his dad, kind of, and these 2 other robots that he has put together. And he's basically the last human on Earth. All the robots have taken over the world, and they have basically eradicated humans. And you don't find out until later in the book why that is. But it was the writing itself was fine. I ended up giving this book, like, I don't know, it sits in a weird space between 3 and 3.5 stars for me. This book is just okay. I thought the ending was fine, but the book is just okay. And the main reason it kind of bothered me and such is that, like, well, first off, the humor in this book was off for me. I don't know what it was, but especially in the very beginning of the book, it was very, what's the word? You know when you can tell that someone's trying to be funny, but the jokes that they're giving you are either really repetitive, it's like the same joke over and over again, or it's just awkward. That's kind of what the humor in this book felt like, especially in the beginning. So I didn't care for that personally. And what was the other thing about this book that I did not care about? Oh, my biggest, I don't want to spoil anything in this, but my biggest concern, or not really concern, or questioning with this book, which is why I gave it just the rating it did, like it was just an okay book, is that, okay, the main character, right, is the last human on Earth, according to all these robots and this robot society and all this stuff, okay? But they did nothing with the fact that he was the last human. Like, they gave no anything about if he's going to try to restart humanity, if there's a way he even can, if anything was going to be done with, like, that. There was nothing done with that. I'm like, okay, what the fuck is the point of you being the last human then, bro? What is the point? Like, and what? And what does this mean? I don't know. It was just kind of weird. It was just an unsolved bit of this book, and for that reason, I did not give a shit, and just gave it the rating I did. So, In the Lives of Puppets, that's that of that. Okay, now let's move on to tarot and oracle and all that jazz. So I'm looking at my little pile here, and you guys saw, these were the tarot decks that I used in the month of October, okay? I will show them all individually, but we have the Darkwood Tarot, the Unfinished Business Tarot, Insecta Obscura, Teeny Tiny Tarot, and Disney Villains Tarot. Okay, so these were the decks. I also used 2 Oracle decks, and I might just show those. I think I'll show those first, because to be honest, in the month of October, when it comes to tarot, I actually did tarot less, I feel like, than I did my oracle decks. So let's talk about the 2 oracles I used basically together, which is also a surprise for me. I don't usually pair oracles together or pull 2 at the same time, but I thought that these 2 were actually a very perfect pair for me, so I did. So first I have Seasons of the Witch Mabon. I had this since last year. You guys have seen this deck on my channel. And this is Wild Whiskers Spirit Animal Oracle by Faina Laura. Both of these decks, guys, were very good. I have nothing wrong, like nothing of, what's the word? I love this deck. I have no issues with the Mabon. And this little deck here, the Spirit Animal one, is just such a ray of sunshine. And for some reason, these 2 decks just wanted to talk to each other. This month, this year, this whatever, they were having a good time. So I pulled both of these at the same time, and they helped me get through a lot of the bullshit in the month of October. Again, I was having a lot of emotions and things, and having these 2 paired together just helped. By the way, this card, I love this card. I kept getting this one. There was a couple times where this deck was basically telling me, hey, you need to embrace this energy. You need to try to heal and move on from the pain you're feeling right now. And it was very powerful. So both of these decks together had such interesting time of talking to each other. I don't know why. They just both really seemed to jive. I pulled from both of these almost daily, actually, during the month of October. But I did not pull tarot as much. You will see my tarot decks. It's not like I didn't do any tarot. But I feel like these 2 decks, I just gravitated more to it ended up being. Because they just, I don't know, they wanted to be used together. I love both of these. These are so good. And I don't know, there's something about this deck especially, like, I just love the vibes of this deck. I don't have all of the Seasons of the Witch decks. I've talked about this. At the time of me filming this, I have 3 of them, and that's it. It's this one, Mabon, I have in bulk now, but I'm debating when I'm going to use in bulk. Probably more December, January. And I also have llamas, which I've used. You guys saw it would have been some months back in August, I believe. Or was it September? Don't remember. But anyways, those are the only 3 I have and are probably the only 3 I'm interested in. But these 2 together, as you can see, were just a really nice... Oh, and I also got this card a lot, the Clever Crow. Yeah. Oh, this deck. They were just a good pair together. I don't know. The Oracle decks were winning. I feel like this year I've definitely collected more Oracles that I think will go with a lot in my collection. And so for that reason too, I guess it is what it is. But yeah, Seasons of the Witch, Maban, and Wild Whiskers were the stars. They're true MVPs of the month of October for me. But what tarot was I doing? So let me take a sip. Okay, so I showed vaguely what the decks are, but let's actually take a closer look at these. If you've never seen these decks before, I'm pretty sure a lot of you who have been watching this channel or other channels in general probably have seen these, but yeah. So the first one I have here, which I'm going to add the little Empress card back into, this is the Darkwood Tarot. Specifically, as you can tell, I have the mini version. Why? Because I like the mini Llewellyn cardstock better than the regular cardstock. I'm not going to get into why right now. I feel like I've always ranted about that. I'm not going to. Not talking about that. But this little deck, I always tend to pull this out in October. It just feels like October vibes. It's spoopy vibes. And it works for me. And I don't have a lot to say of this deck. You guys, I mean, this deck has been around, okay? It's not like this is rocket science here. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not a complete RWS clone, but it you know, it pretty much follows, like, for some cards, it follows the same format. It is a beautiful deck. It's just that... I don't know. I don't always gravitate towards it. It's also, as you can see, kind of creepy. So you have to be in the vibe for that, or in the mood, I mean. And because it's a small size, though, I'm able to travel with this deck. So I feel like this was a deck I just threw in my bag a lot in the month of October, but didn't actually end up reading all that much. I did one reading with this a week ahead. You're going to see basically all the decks except 1 or 2 of them. No, all the decks except 1, I really just used for a week ahead reading. I, again, did not do as much tarot in October because life was punching me in the face. So, you know, just is what it is. But this is a Darkwood Tarot. This one's been around. I just have the mini version. This is a Krista, what does she call her channels now? Her channel now, Krista Chronicles, I think. This is one of her little bags. I did a custom thingy for the Darkwood mini, so yeah, that's that. Okay, moving on. What else? What other deck did I use in the month of October? I used this one for sure. I only did 1 reading with it, but I've done a lot of other readings in the past with this deck, so can you blame me? This box also is fucked up. I need to just probably throw it out and just let it live inside this, but I don't want that 100% chaos in my life. This is a teeny tiny tarot. This is a deck by Holly Audley. This is, the one previous was Mass Market. This one is an independent deck. Sorry. As you can see, I have small hands, but this deck is perfect for me. Why? Because it's bridge size, and it is great. So, these are the backs of this deck. The backs are reversible, for those who care. But, yeah. Backs are reversible. And this is the deck. This is also one that, I love this deck, but now that I have a lot of decks in my collection, I don't reach for this one as much. So I noticed that the past 2 years now, I've only pulled this one out during October. I don't know what it is about this deck that makes me think now just October. It's like cute creepy vibes, maybe. And that's why I pull it out. It's got like needles for swords, skulls for cups. eyes for pentacles. And what's the other? The wand. Oh, wands are still wands, I think. They're just, oh, sticks. I think they're called sticks. I love this deck. It is, as you can see, it's very simple. It's kind of got a limited color palette, but not really. It's just very muted colors. And I think this is my favorite deck that does this kind of more muted color scheme. It's got some simplicity, but it makes sense at the same time. This Judgment card. I love this little deck. It is more on the pippy side, but maybe one day I need to do that. I did a while ago for myself. I did a little, it was like a little booklet, but it was basically me giving keywords and like a quick phrase assigned to each of the card meaning. I guess it'd be like if I wanted to do a walkthrough of this deck. Oh, it's still one of my favorite threes. I might show that off one day. I don't know if people care enough for me to do like my full like walkthrough of this deck, but it is a good one. And oh, that's a tag I might do soon. I've seen this tag coming around recently called like First 5 and Last 5. I think this is technically in my first 5. So you might see more of this deck soon. But anyways, this is a teeny tiny tarot. I always love this one. This one's not going anywhere in my collection. I didn't use it much, but I've used it a lot over the years. As you can see, it's all messed up, this thing. So yeah, it's always a good one. But anyways, let's move on now to the next deck. What else did I use in the month of October when I did read tarot? Ooh, I actually forgot about this card. Awkward. I'm just going to shove it into the thing. Okay, I also use in the month of October this deck, Insecta Obscura Tarot. Warning, if you do not like bugs, and I just realized earlier I had a couple cards that showed bugs. I'm so sorry. If you do not like bugs, please look away from this. Or skip ahead so you don't have to see this. But this is called Insecta Obscura Tarot. This deck, I like this deck. It is a square deck, as you can see. The edges are black, and they are awesome. But this deck, as you can see, is bugs. But they're drawn in a very surreal, interesting way, where there's like an image inside the bugs that relates to the meaning of the card. So I think it's a very cool deck. Like this 3 of blades being the ruby-tailed wasp, but it's also like literally like the old imagery. And the 3 of wands being the stag. I don't know. It's just really cool to me. And see, there's like literal faces inside the bugs and stuff. So it just depends. I really like this one. This is actually a deck I did want to use more during this month, but I didn't get around to it. Again, October, by the end of the month especially, October was like punching me in the face. So I did not get to do a lot of stuff I wanted to do with certain decks, but I love this little deck. It is, again, bugs, so it's very, you have to be in the mood for it, but I love black-backed decks is what I'm realizing. I like the little borders. I like that it's square. I know a lot of people don't like square decks or like weird-shaped decks, but I'm actually very fond of them. I feel like I need to do a video talking about them because I have quite a well, not a lot, but I have a few like odd-shaped or square or whatever decks. So I might have to soon. But anyways, this is a good one. I just need to find time to use it more. I don't know when. But yeah. But I did do a reading, a week ahead reading with this one. And then, oops, what did I use out? This deck. Ha. Okay, this is the Unfinished Business Tarot. This is an MJ Cullinane deck. This is specifically an indie version. As of me saying this right now, this deck is not slated for being mass market yet. As you can see, I have the second printing of this deck. Now, obvious reasons, it's spoopy vibes, right? This is why I chose this deck to use during the month of October. Getting more coffee. Okay, I decided to use this one because it's spoopy. it's all about people who have unfinished business. They died and things happened to them. And so they're still on this earth. I like the artwork of this. Don't get me wrong. I actually don't mind the way that the people are drawn here. This is probably the only MJ Cullinane deck well, this is for sure fact. This is a fact at the time of me filming this. I have no other MJ Cullinane deck. Am I going to get any of her decks? Right now, any other of her decks, I mean. And right now, the answer is no. I do not have an interest. There's something about her art that I like, but at the same time, I have no desire to get more of. Don't know why that is. I think it's the way that she does animals. They're accurate. They're just too hyper realistic for me. So I don't want those decks. But anyways, this deck, how do I feel about this one? To be honest, if I look at just the imagery of the deck, it's very beautiful and it works and I'm able to read with it. The thing is, this deck has this little guidebook in here that each of these cards basically has a short story to go along with it. And others have talked about this. This is the extra card too. Some of the stories in this book, in the guidebook, make sense for the card. And so it's fine. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I like this card. But then some of the short stories I've read of each of these cards are very nonsensical. And so because they're nonsensical and I just found myself laughing in disbelief and going, what the hell was that? I don't know how I feel about this deck fully, you know? I also noticed it was accurate, but it was painful of a reader the week that I did a week ahead for this. So I'm just feeling all the things. I'm not sure about this one. I don't know how I feel about it. So for that reason, I don't know. I feel like this is a deck I would need to use more. I love the cardstock though. This is, how do I explain this cardstock? So MJ Cullinane, I guess, does printing from these people called Shuffled Ink. And I heard that she might be changing the cardstock, whatever future projects she does. But this one has a slight finish on it that feels kind of rose petal-ish. But it's not completely rose petal because you can still it doesn't stick together. It's really nice. I don't know what it is, but I really like it. That is the thing. I love touching this deck. I just don't know about reading with the deck, which I know doesn't make sense. But anyways, Unfinished Business Tarot. And finally, so we can finally move on and end this video soon. Jesus, I didn't realize how long this was. This is the Disney Villains Tarot. This is another one that I have pulled out exclusively in October for another year in a row. This year, though, I did something very different with this deck. I edged it. And look, guys, I think this edging came out really, really good. It is so good. The color matches perfect with... I was trying to go see the little lines. It's the same color as the intricate artwork. It is so good. I'm just obsessed with this. But anyways, Disney Villains Tarot. I love this deck. Funny enough, this is an Inside Editions deck, so as you can see, Inside Editions decks, a lot of times the minors are very, very pippy. This deck is, I would argue, pips with feelings. You can still get a sense of what the card is trying to say from these minors. And that's why I tolerate this one, this Disney Villains one. This deck is actually very accurate and very good. So if you're looking for an Inside Editions deck and you like Disney, I do recommend this deck. I think it's very good. I think it was done with a lot of intention. The choices of the characters was very smart and accurate. The only thing I would say about this deck is it's kind of a little bit of a trickster. I notice when I do readings with this deck, whatever reading I do, it's usually with the consideration of the shadow side of this card, or the more negative aspects of meaning ends up being what is the actual message it was trying to give me. And so in that way, it can be a little mean. I'm not saying like it's completely mean, but I am noticing that. I'm having, every time I do readings with this deck, it's just kind of a little bit sassy, which you would think because no shit, it's Disney villains. But it is just interesting in that way. I do think this is also a great deck if you are somebody who is interested in learning court cards. I advise you to get this deck just so you can look at these court cards and understand it, because each of the court cards in this deck is very accurate to what the court card, in my opinion, what they mean. It just shows the more, again, the darker side of those court cards, like the extremes. Like if you go to the extremes of who the King of Wands is, it's basically Jafar, right? So it's, in that way, it's very accurate. Even the Knight of Cups, right? So it takes the more negative aspects. Just be aware of that. If you don't like decks that skew to the shadow, maybe you don't want this one, but I really like it. I love the edging work I did this month with it. And yeah, I do generally recommend this one as an accurate and still good, Inside Editions deck, if you're going to get any. So yeah, that's it. That is my month of, oops, sorry, I shook the camera here. That is my month of October 2024. I am crossing my fingers, my toes, my everything right now that November is much better for me. It's barely started at the time of me filming this, and it wasn't a great start because it's just leftover vestiges of hell from October. But I'm hoping the best for November. So I will see you guys again next time. If you are watching, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'm going to go. Bye.